Please, to those who are online, if you can hear me clearly, please kindly signify. And if you cannot hear me clearly, always put your questions in the comment section. We are to discuss what forms the basis of every human behavior. And if you remember in our classes, we listed several bases of human behavior. Please, if you can hear me clearly, kindly drop your comments in the comment section. And to those who may have one or two questions to ask, you can as well ask the questions. Every human being have a life that is shaped by certain factors. Number one of the several bases of human behavior is what we call the biological basis of human behavior. Biological basis is a kind of complex interaction, and this complex interaction is deep-rooted in biological processes. However, you also must clearly understand that while environmental and sociocultural factors undeniably shape our actions, there are also underlying mechanisms that reside within the intricate machinery of the body. We have neurotransmitters, we have hormones, we have genetic predispositions or possibly genetic variations, and all these I mentioned serve as foundational elements that influence everything from simple reflexes to complex cognitive functions. Remember that genes, hormones, nervous system, under nervous system, we have the central nervous system, which connects the spinal cord with the brain, and we equally have the peripheral nervous system, which connect the nerves. Please, as you listen to me, kindly like as many as possible and drop your questions in the comment section if you have questions to ask. Remember that gene is very important in the formation of the biological basis of our behavior. Hormones are also very important and crucial in shaping our behavior. The same thing applicable to nervous system. Like I said, both the central and the peripheral. Now, if you remember very well the nervous system, particularly the brain stands as the primary control center. The brain serves as the what? The primary control center. And we have neurons that are interconnected through synapses. And it is these neurons that transmit electrical and chemical signals that drive our thoughts, emotions, at the same time our actions. In fact, if I may tell you, neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin play very crucial roles in mood regulation, motivation, at the same time reward pathways. So if you have a disrupted neurotransmitter balance, it will often implicate you in various mental disorders, and this will also highlight the direct link between biology and behavior, as the case may be. There are also hormones that are secreted by endocrine glands, and this exerts a kind of broader influence on human behavior. There is what we also call cortisol that is released in response to stress, and this also prepares the body for fight or flight, while testosterone influences some kind of aggression and libido. Therefore, these hormonal fluctuations often underscore the powerful impact of physiological states of our behavioral tendencies. You also need to critically understand that genetics makes some kind of provision for a blueprint that explains individual differences. Because while genes do not directly dictate behavior, they influence the structure and functions of the nervous system, therefore predisposing individuals to certain traits. There is a serious interplay between genes and environment, and this is known as gene environment interaction. Also, this further complicates the understanding of behavioral origins, whether we like it or not. So, human behavior is linked to biological processes. And when you understand the roles of neurotransmitters, hormones, and genes, you will find out that it is crucial for gaining a comprehensive perspective on the complexities of human action and for developing effective strategies for influences, or possibly also to recognize the foundational role of biology. So, you understanding the foundational role of biology remains paramount in our quest to understand human condition, which implies that a child a child's basis of behavior, or let me say a child's basis of biological behavior, is going to determine by the genes, hormones from the parents. And this is very important. This is very, very, very important. You must understand that the genes that our parents possess and the hormones performs a very serious function in the formulation of the biological basis of our behavior. Therefore, it is important that we take cognizance of genetic variations. We should take very, serious biological basis of behavior. So, in a nutshell, you need to understand that most of these functions that we're talking about, for example, every form of signal, every form of information is sent to the brain through the neurons. It is the neurons that transmit information to the brain. Then we also have two psychological basis of behavior. Number one is biological basis. Number two is the psychological basis of behavior. In as much as we all understand that human behavior is very complex, so you need to understand that the complex tapestry of psychological behavior finds its underlying structures in the fundamental principles of psychology. Therefore, this seeks to unravel the mechanisms, the problems, or the factors that necessitate or drives our actions, thoughts, and emotions. And this also provides a strong and fundamental framework for understanding the individual and collective human experience. Human behavior is rooted, like I said earlier on, in a complex of biological, cognitive, and sociocultural factors. Therefore, some of these issues needs to be studied psychologically. For example, if you look at cognitive processes, which includes perception, memory, and reasoning, they shape our understanding of the world and also at the same time inform our decision making. Therefore, this encompasses some form of societal norms, cultural values, interpersonal relationships, and we also need to understand that we must be able to contextualize behavior within the broader social framework. For example, if let's take motivation, this stems from basic drives like hunger and thirst to a more complex aspirations like achievement and belonging. So this plays a very critical role in some forms of, let me say, in initiating and directing our behavior. These motivations are further, shaped by emotions, and this provides some kind of intensity to our experiences. Ultimately, it influences our reactions and choices. Then, if you look at learning also, learning plays a very significant role in shaping our behavior. Through processes like classical and operant conditioning, we get to adapt to our environment. And when we get adapted to our environment, this in turn modify our responses based on past experiences and possibly anticipated consequences of our actions. So there is always this constant learning, constant process of learning that we allow individuals for adaptation, growth, and at the same time, development of complex skills and behavior. So the psychological basis of human behavior offers a kind of rigorous and extensive understanding of the underlying basis of human behavior. So, when we examine the interplay of these biological, cognitive, and sociocultural factors, as well as the driving forces of motivation, emotion, and learning, we will have the chance to gain valuable insight to the intricate mechanisms that govern our actions and at the same time shape our experiences as individuals and as species, as the case may be. So there is the need for this understanding because it is very important for addressing individual and societal challenges. And when we understand this will ultimately contribute to a more informed and possibly compassionate understanding of human condition. That is that about psychological basis of human behavior. Then we have what we call social basis of human behavior. And let me tell you, and we have said it times without number that somebody said I should please touch personality development. Okay, we'll get to that. Anywhere you see the word social, you are simply making reference to the word the word society, because the society is complex and it is at the same time very difficult, to understand. Therefore, you need to get it very clear that human behavior most times is often perceived as a product of individual, experience and internal processes, which implies that it is linked to the social fabric within which it unfolds. This implies that some of these issues are linked to the society where these issues unfold, or where these issues, happen. You need to get it right and understand that the social basis of human behavior highlights the profound influence of social structures. What exactly do we mean by social structures? We are simply talking about the pattern of behavior that exists within the social institution. That exists within the what? Within the social institutions. We have social structures, norms, and interactions. And these social structures, norms, and interactions shape individuals. Not only shape individuals, it shapes our thoughts, feelings, and actions, as the case may be. Which simply means that from the moment of birth, from the point of birth, individuals are immersed in a complex web of social relationships that provides a kind of scaffolding for development and influences subsequent behaviors. Man is a product of his environment. Most of the things we are going to experience in life are definitely going to be shaped by our social experiences. We have said it times without number that socialization is a lifelong process, and it involves the transformation from a biological organism into a social organism, which implies that learning is a continuous process. We'll continue to learn and learn and learn and learn. Remember, we said everything has to do with learning, unlearning, and relearning, which implies that Socialization, which is the process through which some of us, you and I, or individuals learn the values, beliefs, and customs of their society, plays a very important and pivotal role in shaping our social basis, in shaping the social basis of our behavior. This simply means that through interactions with family members, peer groups, institutions, media, and others, some of us, as members of the society, we have the advantage and the opportunity to internalize our societal expectations. When we are able to internalize this, then we will have this chance to develop a sense of self-informed through self-informed lifestyle through an informed social context. This implies that internalized norms dictates or predicts acceptable and unacceptable behaviors, and this in turn guide our individual choices, and it also fosters some forms of social cohesion. What do I mean by social cohesion? We are talking about okay. David Sam said transformation from biological organisms into social organisms. Yes, when a child is born, during the period of pregnancy, every child is a biological organism. The child feeds from the mother, the child drinks from the mother, the child does everything within the human womb, which implies that the child cannot speak at that time, but the child is a living organism even within the mother's womb, which implies that everything within the mother's womb is all logical until a child is born. That is when the child becomes what? The child becomes a social organism. Therefore, we need to understand that some of these issues are issues that shape our lives every time. We must be open to learning. We must be open to learning the acceptable norms and values of whatever society we find ourselves. Furthermore, social structures such as socioeconomic status, gender, and ethnicity, these factors all create some kind of differential opportunities and constraints, which all these I mentioned have significant impact on our behavior. These structures at the same time influence our access to resources. It also shapes our social identity, and at the same time it contributes to the development of specific behavioral patterns that we exhibit as a member of the society. For instance, let's say individuals from marginalized communities may face a kind of systemic barriers, and this will affect everything about their societal attainment. For example, educational attainment, employment prospects, and at the same time overall well-being, which may also influence their choices and behavior. So in conclusion, while individual agency remains a critical factor, when we understand the social basis of human behavior, we will understand that the influence of social forces on us is enormous, and we can gain a very serious perspective on individual actions and also be able to develop strategies that will help us address social inequalities and promote behavioral change. There is a very serious intricate interplay between individual and the social world, and this is what will ultimately define your experience and shape everything about your life. Lastly, we have cultural. Man, like we've always said, is a product of his environment. People learn from culture. People learn from culture, and human behavior, like we said, is deep rooted in biological imperatives. And this is all profoundly shaped and influenced by cultural context, because every society of the world have their culture from which socialization process takes place. Culture encompasses some kind of shared beliefs, values, norms, and practices. And this provides a framework through which individuals, you and I, interpret the world and navigate through social interactions. So this is the framework that dictates the acceptable conducts, morals, and this also molds our perception and ultimately guides our behavior, rendering the notion of, let me say, purely instinctual human action largely obsolete. Most of these things are not by instinct. They are possibly as regards or they are possibly concerned about what we learn. So let's say, for example, from more language acquisition to moral reasoning, culture provides the lens through which you and I, or let's say we understand and respond to stimuli. There are also specific values that we must prioritize within culture, such as individualism versus collectivism, as propounded, I think, Taco Parsons. We also have a kind of situation whereby these things will directly impact on your behavior. Some of these issues are well grounded in established norms, and it is these established norms that govern social hierarchies, and not only social hierarchies, also social etiquette. Because in most instances, we need to understand that emotional expressions also dictate how you and I relate within our various societies. However, remember that culture is never a static thing. Culture is dynamic. In fact, in its total entirety, somebody said, please, I don't understand the psychology well. I'm coming. Let's quickly round up so I attend to some of those questions. Like I said, culture is not something that is static. It is a very dynamic thing, and it constantly evolves through innovation, interaction, and at the same time adaptation. So we need to understand that while biological basis provides the foundation, it is culture that furnishes the blueprints for human behavior. You and I have been trained in so many ways that replicates what our cultural practices entails. Therefore, you need to get this clear that it is through culture that we can learn values that you and I, or that will make you and I develop some kind of unique identities, and this will enable us to be able to navigate through the complexities of life, or let me say complexities of what? Social life. So when you understand the cultural basis very well, you will also get to understand that it is paramount for understanding, how to behave well within the society. You will also get it clear that it is something that will give you the chance to comprehend the diverse nature of our society and often unpredictable nature of human actions. Those are the four bases of human behavior that we examined during our lectures. Now, somebody said expatiate on the forms of learning. No, there is nothing like forms of learning conditioning and how it's simulated. What we made reference to is operant and classical conditioning. Then somebody said he doesn't understand psychological basis of human behavior very well. Okay, that's Dan Lamy Faith. The psychological basis of human behavior should be re-explained. Okay. Then I think so far so good. I've only come across two questions. To the person who asked me to re-explain the psychological basis of human behavior, I said, and I repeat that, ordinarily, human behavior is deep rooted in biology, and this also involves some kind of cognitive and sociocultural factors. So when biological influences encompasses genetic predispositions and neurological processes, this will provide some form of hardware upon which your behavior is built. Cognitive psychology is one of the various branches of psychology we examined, and under this we spoke about issues like perception, memory, and reasoning. When you reason well and when you understand the biological basis of behavior very well, It will shape your understanding of the world, and this will in turn inform you, or let me say inform you, or enlighten your, or expand your scope of reasoning in decision making. So you need to get the fact that issues like motivation or some other issues that stems from basic drives like hunger, tests, they are very complex aspirations like achievement and belonging. So therefore you need to understand that most of these issues are also shaped by emotions, and when they are shaped by emotion, it provides some kind of balance and intensity to our social experiences, and this will ultimately influence our reactions and experiences. Somebody said, please, what is the difference between social and cultural basis of behavior? Culture is inherent in within the society. The word social relates with the society, but culture is built within the society. Then, well, I don't think I've seen much questions here. I've been able to attend to as many possible questions, please. If you have questions, can you please start asking questions, please? Well, in the absence of no question, I think I will allow you guys to have a break, rest a bit, then we'll come for the second we'll come back for the second session.